1,847 billion gallons. Let that number sit with you for just a second. That is exactly how much water is inside Lake Powell right now, as of May 18, 2026. Sounds like a lot, doesn't it? It sounds like we're doing just fine. But here's what that number actually means when you put it in context. That massive lake, one of the largest reservoirs in the entire United States, is sitting at just 23.3% of its total capacity. It is nearly 3/4 empty. The water level measured at 3,527 feet above sea level. That is 173 feet below where this lake is supposed to be when it is full. And right now, the rivers feeding into it are running at barely 24% of their normal May flow. If you're someone who remembers Lake Powell in its golden years, what you'd see today would stop you cold. I've been following this data closely, and I want to walk you through exactly what the numbers mean, where we went wrong, what's being done right now, and most importantly, what actually works going forward. Because this is not a doom story. This is a story about one of the most solvable infrastructure crises in American history, if we're willing to look at it honestly. Let's start with today's reality, because the data is striking. We are 63% through water year 2026. That runs October through September. And the mountain snowpack that feeds the entire Colorado River system is sitting at 13.8% of its historical average. Not 13% below average, 13% of average. The snow that's supposed to slowly melt through spring and early summer and pour life into this system simply did not come this year. Total inflows into Lake Powell for the entire water year so far add up to just 58% of the May average. Meanwhile, the dam has been releasing water steadily to meet downstream obligations. The result, outflows have exceeded inflows by more than 1 million acre-feet this year alone. The lake has dropped more than 31 feet compared to this exact same time last year. And the 34 smaller reservoirs upstream, the ones designed to serve as a cushion, are collectively sitting at less than 30% of capacity. There is no cushion left. If you've spent summers on Lake Powell, and millions of Americans have, generation after generation, this hits differently when you hear that out of 17 boat launch sites across the entire lake, 16 are completely dry right now. Bare dirt. Cracked clay. The only working ramp on the whole lake is the State Line Auxiliary Ramp, and it is just 8 feet above its absolute physical minimum. One bad summer could close it entirely. Now, how did the most engineered river system in the world get to this point? The honest answer goes back over 100 years, to 1922, when 7 western states sat down and divided the Colorado River's water under the historic Colorado River Compact. The men in that room measured the river's flow during one of the wettest stretches in centuries, and wrote those numbers into law. They promised 15 million acre-feet of water per year, based on what they were seeing at that moment. The problem is, that wet period was a historic anomaly. Scientists went back later and analyzed 500 years of tree ring data, the natural record of wet and dry years locked inside ancient wood, and what they found was sobering. The river's natural long-term average is closer to 13.5 million acre-feet. We built a multi-trillion-dollar economy around a number that was never real to begin with. Glen Canyon Dam was constructed in the 1960s as a savings account, storing good years so the system could pay out during dry ones. For 2 decades it worked, but starting around the year 2000, a prolonged mega-drought took hold, and the withdrawals have never stopped. Here's where it gets urgent for right now, in 2026. The federal government has set a hard line called minimum power pool at 3,490 feet above sea level. If Lake Powell drops below that threshold, the water pressure inside the dam becomes insufficient to safely spin the hydroelectric turbines. The physics are unforgiving. Below that point, the water creates violent vacuum pockets that can literally destroy the machinery from the inside. Glen Canyon Dam currently powers homes, businesses, and ranches across 5 states. If generation stops, it doesn't just mean higher electric bills. It threatens grid stability across the entire Southwest, at a time when summer heat is pushing power demand to record highs. The federal government is already taking emergency action, holding back water that should be flowing to Lake Mead, and draining northern reservoirs like Flaming Gorge to prop up Powell artificially. These are short-term tourniquets, not cures. So what are the real solutions? Not the surface-level ones you see recycled in every news segment. Shorter showers, pulling up lawns, paying farmers to go fallow for a season. Those things matter, but they don't solve the structural problem. The solutions that actually move the needle come from a different kind of thinking entirely. The first comes from atmospheric science research, focused on something called dust on snow acceleration. Every spring, massive plumes of dark desert dust from degraded lower valley soils get picked up by wind and deposited directly onto the high-altitude Rocky Mountain snowpack. Clean white snow reflects up to 80% of solar energy back into space. But once that dark dust settles on top, it turns the snowpack into a heat absorber. The snow melts weeks too early. Much of it evaporates directly into the atmosphere through a process called sublimation before it ever reaches a river. Targeted investment in soil stabilization, native vegetation restoration, and dust suppression across the lower desert valleys can increase actual river runoff by more than 10% annually. That's millions of acre-feet of water reclaimed, not by taking anything away from anybody, but by stopping an invisible theft that's been happening for decades. The second solution requires modernizing water law itself. Right now, Western water rights operate under a doctrine called use it or lose it. If a farming family doesn't consume their full historical water allocation every single year, they risk losing that right permanently. So even in a crisis year, ranchers flood irrigate thirsty crops just to protect their family's legal asset. It makes complete rational sense for them individually, and it is a disaster for everyone collectively. A federally protected digital water banking system would change that equation completely. A farmer could grow a less water-intensive crop, lease their unused allocation to a city or a power utility at fair market value, earn a strong profit, protect their family's water right, and keep that water stored behind the dam where it belongs. The farmer wins. The city wins. The reservoir wins. Nobody loses their heritage or their livelihood. The numbers coming out of Lake Powell right now are not a headline to scroll past. They represent a genuine inflection point for the American West, for agriculture, for electricity, for communities that have been built around this water for generations. The infrastructure that made this region livable was a spectacular achievement. Keeping it livable for the next 50 years is going to require the same boldness, applied to systems and laws rather than concrete and steel. If you found value in this breakdown, please take a moment to hit the like button and share this with someone who cares about American infrastructure and water policy. It costs you nothing, and it helps us keep bringing independent, fact-based reporting without any corporate filter. Drop a comment below. I want to know your honest take. Should the federal government step in with firm mandatory restrictions, or is a modernized free market water banking system the right path forward for protecting both our economy and our way of life? This is your water. This is your grid. This is your call. We'll see you in the next one.